Over the past 18 months of running my own AI automation agency, Morningside AI, I've sent out literally hundreds of contracts and only ever had one dispute with a client. And that dispute was resolved positively in our favor thanks to a rock solid contract. In this video, I'll walk you through the exact contract template that I used to get Morningside AI off the ground in early 2023 and show you how you can use it to start your own AI automation agency safely. Firstly, I'll debunk the biggest contract myths that really trip up beginners early on, and then we'll dive into the template, breaking down each section and how you can modify it for your own clients and your own projects. So what exactly is a contract and why do we need them? So contracts are a legally binding agreement between yourself and a client, and it's a way of both protecting your client and also protecting yourself, and very clearly stating what the scope of work is going to be and what you're building for them, what compensation you expect, etc. So there's really a couple key parts with it you're going to see on the template in a second, but it comes down to things like the scope of work, what you're actually expected to be delivering, what are the deliverables, you have the compensation, the total amount, and then the payment terms. Say it's going to be $5,000 split into two payments, 50% upfront and 50% at completion. And contracts often need to include things like what's expected from the client, not just your deliverables and the things that you are delivering, but hey, we need access to your software, we need access to your team, we need responses and stuff back from their end, we need you to provide your API key, etc. So not only is it to clearly lay out what you're expected to do, but also the agreement on the client side and what they're bringing to the table in terms of compensation, the payment structure, and things that they need to provide to you for successful delivery of the scope of work within the contract. So the most important thing you need to understand as a beginner when it comes to contracts and getting into business is that at the end of the day, a contract is just a piece of paper. Yes, they are legally binding, and technically you can, if they have signed it and you have signed it and there's a clear breach of the contract, you can go and try to enforce the law on them and say they broke the contract. But there is also an aspect of practicality involved where, say if this is a $5,000 contract, the effort for you to go and seek the power of the law or go to the government and try to get this enforced and saying, hey, they haven't paid me my second $2,500, the second part of the contract, it is just not worth the effort on your part. You would likely need to spend a ton of money in legal fees just to be able to go and reclaim that $2,500 from them. So most important thing you must understand with contracts, they're just a piece of paper. People break contracts all the time, and there's basically nothing you can do. So with this in mind, it's like, why would I actually be bothering with contracts? Well, you need to have that in place because by them signing it, you're basically giving the value of their word. And this is what you need to be looking out for when you are signing your first few clients, is that shady people with a contract, they'll just throw that up and walk away. You need to do a bit of a character assessment of your client and be like, is this person someone who is going to, once they put that word and their signature on that document, do I trust that they're going to fulfill their side of the bargain here? So there is this interesting human element to contracts early on where you have to essentially weigh up the person and say, do I trust this person to follow through on what they say? But then there's also another aspect of it of how can I structure this contract in a way that protects me from the darker side of human nature, which exists in all of us in varying degrees, but how can I structure this deal so that worst case scenario, I'm still covered or at least covering my costs? And that's what we're going to jump into in this contract template in a second. But that's what you need to understand is that contracts are a piece of paper. It's only as strong as the person's word when you are dealing with low ticket or relatively low ticket contracts, like when you are starting out. Even as you get up to say $50,000 or $100,000 projects, the burden for you to go and try to enforce that contract or breach of contract is so great that it is still not worth it for you to do. So only when you're dealing with multiple six-figure contracts, it really becomes feasible for you to do that. Those are instances of where you believe that they have breached the contract and you want to pursue them, but they can also claim that you have breached the contract in their eyes, and they can come and pursue you for it. So you need to have a solid contract template that you work from, and you need to clearly define the scope of work, which is what I'm going to walk you through right now. Here on screen is the exact contract that we used to get Morningside AI off the ground back in early 2023. So I'm going to walk you through the different parts of it now so you know how to use it and modify it, and I'll tell you how to get access to it. So we have the software development agreement. We have the parties, so it's an agreement on the contract date. You see all these square brackets. This is what you need to replace. And here we have the software development company, which is yourself, your name or your company name if you're just a sole proprietor and you're just doing this on your name for now. Then the address of your company, and you're the consultant as you refer to later in the document. Here is where you need to send it over to your client to fill out their name or their company name, their address, etc. And so then we get to the services section, which is really the most important part for you in making sure that you clearly define the scope and what you're responsible for delivering. So here's an example of something you might fill out here. Build an MVP custom knowledge chatbot that takes prospects through a series of questions moving towards an objective, e.g. booking a call or purchasing a service, and can provide support regarding the company's products, general information, The application will be deployable to a website widget in the right-hand corner of the web page. This MVP will be for one specific client of the client and will have to be duplicated and adjusted in future milestones if alternative versions are needed. So this is what's defined as the scope of these services here. And it's helpful to do this, but also you can add in some bullet points as well. This is for a very basic build. You can provide a lot more detail and very clearly state out the milestones and the deliverables required. So then, as I mentioned, you get onto the requirements from the client. So you can put in here, like, we need access to this or this. We need your API key. We need you to join our Slack and answer their onboarding questionnaire, etc. The term here is pretty straightforward: when you're going to start the project and start building for them, and when it's going to end. You can select one of these on the date and then add in a date that you want to end on. There's other options here you can use. This one here is the main one you're going to be using. Then compensation is how you get paid. In consideration for the services provided, the consultant is to be paid in the following manner: per hour, which is likely not what you're going to be doing; per job, contract value. So you can add in, say, $2,000 here in total. And so this is the total compensation. And then you have the payment terms down here. So the consultant shall be paid in accordance with Section 4 on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, etc. And then I have other as an option down here, which you'll typically want to go when you're starting out, 50% up front, 50% on completion. And these payment terms are great to get started. You get your money up front to cover your costs, and then 50% when you actually deliver the value you said you're going to deliver. I've just done a whole video on pricing, which if you haven't seen it, if you're a beginner getting started, you really need to understand it. I'll put it up here somewhere. Really important you understand how to properly price your services when you're getting started. Then we have a quick section on expenses. So either you're going to be responsible for all of them in the delivery, or you can opt to be reimbursed for the client for some expenses. So you could say, hey, look, we'll set it up on our service initially, and we'll set it up on our API key, but at the end of the project, we're going to expect you to reimburse us for the cost incurred to do that. So in most cases, if you're just doing a upfront build where you build it and then sort of leave, you're going to be responsible for all expenses, and you include those expenses as part of your pricing. Then you have a dispute section, so you can change the jurisdiction to be in your country that you'd want to be handling any disputes in. Legal notice, and then a lot of other legal jargon. Then again, you've got a governing law section where you need to change this to your country or your state. And then of course, down the bottom here, we have a section for your signature. So your signature here, then the clients, you can send this over. DocuSign is typically how you do it. I think you do get 10 contracts for free with DocuSign. So you can sign up with DocuSign, put a link down below, not affiliated. But you can also just send it to them and get them to sign it on their PDF viewer on their Mac or whatever they're using. But yeah, DocuSign generally comes across a lot more professional because it's kind of email they get and then they sign it, and it all feels very professional. So using this contract and using DocuSign is how we got Morningside AI started. And of course, I do have to add in a disclaimer here that I am not a legal professional. This is what worked for us. I'm simply giving a recount of what we have done and what worked for Morningside in our early stages. And this is the exact template that we use to get off the ground. So just as a final note on contracts before we wrap up, I know it's something that beginners can get quite hung up on initially. And I really want you to just put that whole legality stuff. I need to set up a company. I do this all official. I need to have all these $1,000 contracts and the lawyer involved. You just need to start, man. You just need to take the resources that I gave you, like this contract. It worked for us. It can work for you. I know that. Like I said, contracts are really just a formality. This is all you need to get off the ground. And then later on, you can hire your lawyer once you've got some cash flow coming in, and you can fully rethink it and make sure it's really tailored to what you're offering. But this is enough to get started. Forget that whole fancy legal setup rubbish. You just need to focus on getting people to give you money. That's all it is. That's all starting a business is getting people to give you money. That's all for the video, guys. If you haven't already, joined the free school community so you can get access to this template. It's going to be first link in the description. Also, my free course is available there too. I look forward to seeing some of you on my Q&As each week, where you can ask me questions directly. And if you want to watch another video on pricing, which is very adjacent to this, we'll check that out here. I've just posted it. Really, really good video on understanding how to price your services effectively as a beginner. But aside from that, guys, that's all for the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.